But until you can come in and compete with them and do a better job, then you don't have a claim on that money. And you only have a claim on it if you can win business with other people. But of course, you don't do that. You go to the government and you work out an extortion deal. What the government is a mafia crime family that perpetrates extortion on a mass scale. Your other point, that these cavills, as you say, will obscure the virtues of the stimulus and housing program, which getting money into the economy is supposedly going to save us all. And I can tell you that government spending is massively inefficient. It takes money from people who have made some kind of profit, enough to have a good income. You take away their money at the margin, money that they could have used to reinvest into their own abilities or their firm's abilities, or invest in other people to do more training, to be able to add more value to the economy. And you give it to people who, through a bureaucracy, have to spend it in quite inefficiently. Therefore, for every job you create through a government program, you're destroying untold amounts of opportunity in the private sector. It just can't be quantified. But certainly you're destroying more value than you're creating. Now you say in the name in you and your buddy at Berkeley, who doesn't surprise me, comes from the left on this kind of analysis, thinks it's healthy, that the housing proposal is healthy. Well, you've admitted that a certain amount of iniquity is built into any government assistance program. Of course it is. No matter what the circumstances of the person who is holding a mortgage that they can't continue to pay, or that they're upside down on and therefore cannot refinance, or then and therefore they're upside down. Their net worth, at least in the for their major asset, their house, is upside down. They have a negative net worth. Now, do you think people have a right to a positive net worth? In other words, what about the people who rent, who have never bought a house because they didn't want to pay the extraordinarily high prices that quite proved out to be too high, and in a bubble type housing price setting, and they rightly stayed out? You're not giving them any help. You're helping the people who got in over their head, bought a house, and you say through no fault of their own. Everyone who bought a house in the bubble has some fault. They should have recognized that they were buying in over their head. Now, unless they were a speculator, which is to buy a house and flip it, maybe that's their business. But if they were thinking to have a steady gain in their net worth, thinking that housing could never go down, then they just don't know history, and they need to be punished for their bad decision, as do the banks who gave the loans, who then, especially adjustable rate loans, to people who couldn't likely pay the adjusted rate. So, your last point that you said there was, if the stimulus money begins to flow, then you may, well, let me see here. I'm going to read from your column. Yeah, you said positive consequences immediately begin to flow if you follow the experience of the New Deal, including stemming of unemployment, halt to the deflation trend, and possibly a better tone in the capital markets. The New Deal history has been spun to the advantage of the leftists for obvious reasons. The real coup for the left of the New Deal was that it took government control. It centralized government control. It put many more regulatory agencies and allowed the government to take a larger contractual control over construction sectors and other sectors of business. That's the real coup of the New Deal. It didn't stop the depression. It didn't even slow it down. It just extended it and deepened it. Even Christine Romer, who's on the President's Advisory Council, agrees with that. Don't know how he's going to reconcile those little discrepancies. So, in short, Hiltzik, you're on weak ground. You go on to say about how the states should be accepting the stimulus, and that the 6 governors who have said they don't want to accept it are just posturing and being silly, and that they don't have any real principles, and that they're just whiners. Well, if you're calling people whiners who want to stand on their own as individuals and take their chances without latching onto the tit of the big government, then who is, if your America is different than my America that I see. And I think that wiser heads in the long run will understand what kind of a power grab this really is, and any kind of spin that you want to offer as who's a whiner and who isn't. I think history shows pretty clearly that people dependent on the government are the whiners, and not the other way around. Smith out.